Co-counseling, spelled co-counseling in American English, is a grassroots method of personal change based on reciprocal peer counseling. It uses simple methods. Time is shared equally, and the essential requirement of the person taking their turn in the role of counselor is to do their best to listen and give their full attention to the other person. It is not a discussion. The aim is to support the person in the client role to work through their own issues in a mainly self-directed way. Co-counseling was originally formulated in the early 1950s by the American Harvey Jackins, and originated in a schism in the Dianetics movement, itself in part derived from schisms in general semantics and cybernetics. Jackins founded the Reevaluation Counseling (RC) communities, with headquarters in Seattle, Washington, United States. His son, Tim Jackins, is currently the international leader of Reevaluation Counseling and its main affiliates. There are a number of smaller, separate, independent organizations that have resulted from breakaways from, or reworkings of, Reevaluation Counseling. The principal one of these is Co-Counseling International, CI. The main activity in co-counseling involves participants arranging to meet regularly in pairs to give each other peer-to-peer counseling, in turn taking the role of counselor and client, with equal amounts of time allocated to each. Co-counseling functions by giving people an opportunity to work on whatever issues they choose with the accepting support of another person, with whom they have no actual relationship. The person in the role of counselor acts as a facilitator to the client, sometimes as a third-party observer and sometimes as a second-party confidant. While co-counseling is sometimes practiced outside a formal organization, formal co-counseling organizations have developed leadership and support structures, including trainings and retreats. Safety, in the sense of being very low risk, and the sense that a co-counseling session is a safe space, is important to the methods. There are strict rules of confidentiality. In most circumstances, the counselor may not talk about a client's session without explicit and specific permission by the client. This is stricter than in other practices, where practitioners discuss clients with supervisors, colleagues, and sometimes with all sorts of other people. The peer relationship makes a considerable contribution to a sense of trust. The nature of the co-counseling session opens up the possibility for people to get in touch with emotions that they would avoid in any other circumstance. A belief in the value of working with emotions has become a core focus of the approach. Co-counseling training emphasizes methods for accessing and working with emotions, and co-counselors aim to develop and improve emotional competence through the practice. Evidence as to the actual effectiveness of this method is undemonstrated. To get involved in co-counseling, it is usually first necessary to complete a course in the fundamentals of co-counseling. The training involves learning how to carry out the roles of client and counselor. Trainers may be counselors or simply experienced members of the community. It also covers the guidelines or rules affecting co-counseling for the particular organization. Differences in approach mean that each organization normally requires completion of one of its own courses as a prerequisite for membership, even if someone has already completed a course with another organization. The original theory of co-counseling centers on the concept of distress patterns. These are patterns of behavior, that is, behavior that tends to be repeated in a particular type of circumstance, that are irrational, unhelpful, or compulsive. The theory is that these patterns are driven by the accumulated consequences in the mind of not currently conscious memories of past events in which the person was unable to express or discharge the emotion appropriate to the event. Co-counseling enables release from the patterns by allowing emotional discharge of the past hurt experiences. Such cathartic discharge includes crying, warm perspiration, trembling, yawning, laughing, and relaxed, non-repetitive talking. In day-to-day life, these discharging actions may be limited by social norms, such as, for example, taboos around crying, which are widespread in many cultures. Having temporary undivided supportive attention from another person often gives rise to strong feelings, apparently towards that person, typically of falling in love with them. This is similar to the phenomenon of transference, particularly when one of the partners is felt to have more authority because, for instance, they are more experienced, are teachers of co-counseling, or have authority roles within the organization. The organizations differ in the ways that they handle this. The inability to trust and feel in real relationships is often exacerbated by the pseudo-intimacy of co-counseling, making transference more likely and more dangerous. Many co-counselors take the view, often quite strongly, that co-counseling is not psychotherapy. In the beginning, this was because reevaluation counseling decided not to draw on any discipline of psychotherapy for its theory and practice, although RC did incorporate some ideas from psychoanalysis such as unconscious promptings, which Jackins adapted and relabeled restimulation. A similar view is taken by some non-RC co-counselors, who regard psychotherapy as involving specialist techniques used by a therapist on a client and is therefore not peer and the client has little or no control over the process. Others consider that co-counseling is psychotherapeutic, in that it enables change or therapy to take place in the psyche, soul effect or being of an individual. Co-counseling takes a positive view of the person, that is, we are all essentially good, considers the mind and body as an integrated whole, and acknowledges the value of catharsis. It is regarded as an approach within humanistic psychology, a view that would be rejected by some within RC.